Hello everyone, this is Salem coming to you with a new series, Debates of Faer. As I'm sure you guessed, this is a Wings of Fire related video where I talk about, well, Wings of Fire. Today we'll be discussing Arc 1, the Dragonets of Destiny arc as I call it. Please also note that this will naturally contain plenty of opinions, and I ask that you respect them, as we're all welcome to opinions. Of course, I would love to hear yours down in the comments, but please keep it respectful to both me and other viewers. Thank you. But before we move on, I must warn for spoilers. This will spoil the prologue from Book 1 to the epilogue of Book 5. You have been warned. So, right off the bat, let's get into characters. Overall, the characters are great. Together, at least. Alright, I have nothing against the characters, but it's a lot easier to get behind them as a group as opposed to individually. There's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong, but I find most of the protagonists kind of boring. Let's go into each individual character in order of the book. In order of the books. I apologize too, this is my first time reading off a script, so please just note that it might suck. First off is Clay. Clay is a great starter character. He's so kind and compassionate and has some rather interesting points of view. His book just wasn't the best. That being said, he had virtually no impact on the story whatsoever. What did he do? Get all the dragons captured, with Tsunami's help, and get 2 of their guardians killed. Nice going, dumbass. Oh yeah, by the way, he almost dies. What the fuck, Clay? You know, more matters than food, right? Okay, that being said, I actually really do like Clay. Second, we have Tsunami. Tsunami is kinda a filler character for me. To be honest, I don't know how to explain her. I think her character is really wishy-washy. Like, she gets a lot of character development, and it feels like she just goes back and forth with it. Which I acknowledge this is a normal process of change, but it's really annoying to read about. And what does she actually do in the storyline? Honestly, I think her best attribute is she keeps the damned dragonets in check. That being said, I think her book was rather good, and I think her POV was perfect even without the fact it was her kingdom. Third, we have Glory. I don't have much to say about Glory. To be honest, she's my favorite Dragonet of Destiny. I love how aloof and prickly she is, but at the end of the day, she loves her fellow Dragonets and Kingdom. Reading Book 3, wow, to be honest, it was my favorite of the arc, and maybe even in the series. Outside of being slightly infuriating sometimes, Glory has definitely one of the best characters in my opinion. Not only because she's beautiful, but because she's the most ready to change things. She's also so driven because of how she was raised. Feeling like nobody wants you and being told that every day of your life for 6 years? Yikes, it's hard. Fourth, we have Starflight. Don't get me started. I hate Starflight. He is such a wimp that it took going blind for him to grow a pair. Sorry to put it like that, but oh my gods, he's just so pathetic and contributes nothing to the storyline. Okay, I'll admit, with his ties to the Nightwings by being a Nightwing, he's not that useless, but even in Book 1, he couldn't escape himself. He needed Marrowseer to come in and be like, yoink! And boom, Starflight safe. Not to mention, his book was so boring my friends had to shove it in my face and force me to read it. I mean, this may be a slight exaggeration, but still, oh my gods, he's exasperating. And last, but certainly not least, Sunny. To be honest, I don't have anything against Sunny, but in terms of the prophecy, she makes the biggest difference and wants to change the world more than anyone else. I know I kind of said that about Glory, but there's a difference. Sunny wanted to make the prophecy come true, something Glory didn't really care about, and Glory was more driven to make the world better for her tribes. I love Sunny's point of view, because She's an uncertain being who doesn't know what to do for herself or the world. Her book was probably my second favorite in the arc, and a great sequel to book 4. Overall, I don't hate 4 out of the 5 characters in the arc. And that being said, I do have to admit, changing Starflight or his character probably wouldn't have fixed anything. As much as I dislike him, he was pretty necessary. Wow, I'm going around in circles. Let's move on to the individual books. Starting with Book 1, the prologue of Book 1 was great. Such a great climax, with such hope and despair rippling the pages. There's nothing much to say here, although it's a very important part of the storyline. There just isn't much to say. The main storyline was boring. Honestly, there's not much to say. Clay and the Dragonettes escape, they get captured, they escape again, and they leave. Yeah, more happens, but not that much that's actually important. I mean, we meet Peril and Scarlet and find out what happens to Dune, but honestly, if the entire book, okay, like parts 2 to 3, had been void, the series wouldn't have taken a big hit. That being said, I can't bash it too much. We were introduced to a lot of things and a lot of characters, and it did a great job of describing the threat and why the arc is actually important, and not just another random storyline. But I do know that it was the first book in the series, and if it didn't do that, it wouldn't be a good starting off point, huh? To be honest, there isn't much to say there, as the prologues and the epilogues aren't too long. Kestrel dies, and we kind of just go on another sense of the severity of the situation. Next, we have Book 2. To be honest, I don't remember the prologue or epilogue of this book, so I'm not going to be touching on either. This is for one reason only. Young child me thought it was optional to read, so I've only read them each once. So getting right into it, I don't think there's anything wrong with Book 2. In fact, I think it was a breath of fresh air compared to Book 1. So why the skeptical tone? Well, when I think about this book, it was all over the place, with a million different plots, and it was so hard to follow. Don't get me wrong, Tui pulled it off well, but it wasn't fantastic. First off, they meet Riptide, which was necessary, along with meeting Coral and finding out Tsunami was royalty. Getting into meeting an enemy in Whirlpool, the whole plot kind of trying to teach Tsunami aquatic, none of that was really needed. I guess it's debatable, but I feel like it was exploited more than needed. But, I mean, that being said, the book went the way it did. The climax was so fun, and oh my god, Coral, you're such an idiot! Great book, meh plotline, good execution, really enjoyable. Book 3. No clue what the prologue and epilogue were in this one, so I apologize. Oh my gods, I absolutely love this book. It's honestly my favorite in the first 2 arcs, and only challenged by Book 13. The initial element of uncertainty and intrigue is so interesting, and makes the book great right off the bat. Going into the rainforest and feeling Glory's mixed feelings, and her trying to fight her primal instincts of being lazy, was just so relatable and so well written. Falling into the climax and figuring out why all of these rainwings kept disappearing was obviously the best part, although, I don't know, Glory's challenge for becoming queen was also pretty great. Honestly, I have no problems with this book. I think it had a great climax, and reading everything from Glory's perspective was just amazing. I blew through this book in one day, and the others took me about a month each. I was a tiny child, so cut me some slack. But honestly, I've got no feedback. Book 4. Just kill me now. Okay, so I get why this book is important, but oh my gods, I wanted to die the whole time. Okay, so the first 3 chapters were like Starflight absolutely freaking out and just explaining his dang surroundings, which was just so frustrating. Don't get me wrong, I get this is realistic, but it's not needed. This entire book was literally just Starflight coping with the fact that him and Sunny weren't right for each other, and Fatespeaker is better for him. I may hate both ships, but regardless if I think they're good or not, I'm getting redundant now, aren't necessary. Okay, taking a step back, Starflight really didn't need Fatespeaker because of the events in the next book and the next arc. Okay, taking a step back, Starflight really did need Fatespeaker because of the events in the next book and the next arc. But to be honest, I still think it should have been less focused on in this book. That, of course, is just an opinion because everything that needed to happen, i.e. the Nightwings getting a new home and queen, did. Therefore, my opinion of a very subpar book is that it was a very subpar book, but did what it needed to. Book 5 was honestly great. Comparing it to Book 10, the ending felt a lot less solid and barely gave us any closure. The only end it tied up was the Sandwing Queen, which is totally okay, because we have an Arc 2, and Tui, I'm almost certain, always wanted to do an Arc 2. So those loose ends were fine and didn't need to be tied up. Not to mention, if they had, we wouldn't have gotten the Jade Mountain arc. This book made sense of Sunny, her family and lineage, and more. While a lot of information isn't needed per se, it was really fun to read about. And it was kind of important because if Sunny hadn't met Thorn in the Outclaws, she never would have been baited to the stronghold and gotten captured to end the war. I feel like the end of this book is pretty controversial. For starters, 2 out of 3 Sandwing sisters died, and Sunny is like, fuck the royal family, Thorn, take it. And now the leader of outlaws is leading an entire kingdom? What? Okay, honestly, I'm glad the Sandwings deserve a better queen. Overall, great book. Final review. To be honest, this didn't turn out how I thought I would. To be honest, I love the first arc, although a few of the individual books are meh. Let me just say, the only book in this series I absolutely could not stand was Book 4. Book 1 was a great kicking off point for new readers looking for something just a bit longer, and Book 2 is a fantastic sequel, and I feel like Tui was still getting the hang of the new writing style. Books 3 and 5 were amazing, leaving something to be desired from Book 4. Overall, I give the first Wings of Fire arc a 9 on 10, simply because Book 4 was lacking. Fantastic start to the series and enjoyable read. If you're considering reading Wings of Fire, maybe just read the first arc and see how you like it. I also just want to say, a lot of my opinions on this book series as a whole come from the fact that I prefer mature fantasy to Wings of Fire, which is centered around younger audiences. Overall, I really do love the series. I just have kind of grown out of it the more I've read it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I'd love a like or a comment, or gods, if you really enjoyed, consider subscribing. Some of my other content should be popping up right now, so if you're interested in that, check it out. Have a good day or night, and I'll see you later.